It's important to ground yourself during this time. Humanity must ground themselves, keeping themselves present and guided and connected. The grounding roots of energy need to be called upon, for they are everywhere. Grounding roots of energy are energy cords that connect you to the earth. They are not the cords that connect people to one another, yet they have the same and similar purpose. They ground you, they connect you, they transfer information, and they help you to feel clarity and interconnectedness with all life. So we ask you, I call upon these cords of energy, connect me to the earth, ground me, strengthen my intuition, help me to feel real, to feel here, to feel connected, and always be a beacon of light, hope, and love, as
Beautiful.
well as earth energy, the divine earth energy, the one that was originally here and created to be a beacon of hope and to be a beacon of transformation for all other planets that have been influenced by dark fear. This is the purpose of earth, the purpose of earth energy. And so when one attunes to this frequency, the true earth frequency, they're able to be replenished energetically with a continuous flow flowing through them like a river of light, like a waterfall of continuous happening, the real happening, the happening of life, not the happening of force, but
We're
the
in illusion right now. I believe that everything around us is almost like a matrix of delusion. And you say
yes.
real earth, like we really don't know what the real earth is. You do. Can you help humans to attune to that? What can we visualize as the new earth so that we can ground into it with our third eye?
In essence, if one sets the intention, I attune to the frequency of the cords of energy, of the roots of energy that connect to the heart of earth. I attune to the frequency of the heart of earth. Then there is joy, then there is peace, then there is love. And you feel this because you've attuned to the heart of earth. Just saying this and relaxing into this attunes you to this frequency, and then you'll start to gain back your memories. We know it seems so simple to people, but it really is true. Sometimes the truth is not so complicated. It's just a beautiful, harmonious place of being. For instance, there's many colors of energy, much light. There's no starvation, and there's also no ability to die or be hurt by cold or warm, because in essence, Earth is a balanced temperature, and your intuition would prevent you from stepping into something like a volcano. The volcanoes are only used for cleansing purposes anyways. They are not erupting when they are not needed. And so,
yeah, how can we, if we're going to remember this real earth, is it also what we're being told by the Blue Sapphire Collective as the new earth? Or are you referring to sort of middle earth where there is life and there's waterfalls and colors and it's maybe at a higher vibration? I'm lost as to, is it the new earth or is it middle earth, or is it an earth that we haven't any idea of, because we're all lost in delusion in this kind of pea soup. Here we are in the third dimension on earth.
you can call it the love earth if you wish. Many people call this the new earth, but it is not exactly new. It is actually the ancient earth that is just allowed to bloom once again. It is like if a flower is closed and dormant in hibernation for so long, and then one moment it's able to bloom and blossom again. It is very similar to this. Now, Middle Earth is a good representation of what love earth is. Middle Earth is very peaceful. It does not have war, and it does not have famine, and there is no fighting or bloodshed. It's very similar to just a state of complete harmony and bliss.
Oh,
in terms of a physical representation of this, it is nothing like the movies. It is not like this. It is not like what people visualize. Sometimes there are painters that recreate scenes that are very similar to Middle Earth. And these are scenes that energy is glowing and there is joy, and all of the animals and the humans are all amongst one another, living peacefully and harmoniously. No one is eating one another. And also there's these halos of light, of energy that surround each and every being. And it is never too cold or too warm. It's just this harmonious state of being. There's many trees that produce fruit, yet the fruit is not necessary. It is more of a joy to share than something that is an obligation to eat. This is the closest representation. Also, nature is everywhere, and one has access to their abilities. They can have telepathy, they can have teleportation, they can do and imagine and visualize anything that resonates with them. In essence, they're interconnected with life, as life was intended to flow upon Earth. So there is no fear virus. Yet there's so much to do and to accomplish, because one can go into a meditative state, which is already happening. It's just bringing the internal state and shining it outwards, and then they can influence other realities to return to a state of love. So in essence, the beings of Earth then act as a guide for other beings and other civilizations and planets that are suffering and struggling, that are stuck in the illusion.
And you mean just by meditating and visualizing what you just described as Middle
Yes.
Earth, and taking our root chakra and anchoring it into that beautiful place that sounds like the Garden of Eden that you just described. So that's what we can do as humans to help ourselves ground, to give us hope, as well as in that, it's like a ripple effect to the other planets and other beings. Is that what you're saying?
Because the more you do this, you attune to this frequency, and then you shine this frequency outwards, because your energy is no longer so condensed, it's no longer so restricted. It's able to flow freely and abundantly, and then you're able to shine similar to how a star shines, yet in a different frequency, a very beautiful frequency that is unique to you and unique to Earth. And this shines out, and this is able to influence other beings lovingly and compassionately and help them on their path as well.
Beautiful. Well, I'll practice that in my meditation. More grounding. I have noticed that there's more wind lately. It's been so windy in New England, Rhode Island, where I'm from. I don't know if it's affecting the whole planet, but it seems like more wind than ever. And this winds of change would unground humanity. It's not healthy for us to feel so blown around emotionally or physically. So your suggestion to ground is very helpful. And just in visualizing how and where to anchor ourselves in. If I think of the Middle Earth, like you said, or like the bloomed flower of the real Earth, we're in the delusion of the current Earth right now isn't so much real. It's in a wounded position. So I like the idea that it's blooming into its full-blown potential soon. And maybe we can talk later about foods that also help ground people, because we all need to eat more warm, soupy, grounding foods along with the meditation because of all the wind. And there's so much change beyond the wind that's happening. So we can go in that direction later about nutrition and food. But I first want to ask you a question about how we can live on this planet the way it is now, which is, obviously not ideal. It's in transition and it's a lower vibration. But as we're in it now, as humans, how can we be more sovereign? There are so many people that are putting their power, giving their power to authorities like doctors in the medical community as well as government community, and they've lost their ability to come back to the self and use their own intuition. How can we help people become more sovereign without being violent, like protest and all that? So just more about a gentle way to come back to the self. Do you have any suggestions?
Yes, we do. Before we answer this question, we want you to know, let the wind pass through you. Do not resist the wind. If you resist the wind, it will feel very dramatic and very challenging. Relax, let the wind pass through you. The wind actually can carry away fear. It can carry away stagnant energy. It can remove anything that's stuck. And so if you relax, if you let the wind pass through you, it can carry to consciousness. You can communicate with this consciousness as the consciousness of wind, carry and remove anything that is of fear, anything that is not meant to be with me, carry away this energy, allow it to go back into a state of harmony and no longer disrupt my state of harmony. If you set this intention, this is helpful because wind is trying to help right now. Even though it's intense, it's important to be grounded, yet flow with the wind. Let the wind flow through you instead of creating a barrier between you and the wind. So many people tense up with the wind.
Yes.
Let it just flow through you. This is the solution. Now, in order to be more sovereign, it is not about being in the opposing energies. So many people get stuck in the yin and the yang. And the yin and the yang is very misinterpreted, by the way. Most people do not actually know what it is. They just view it as darkness or light or opposition. In essence, yes, it is duality, but it's much more than this. It's a balance that was created in order to allow humanity to shift as one, but in essence, it needs to shift as one. It cannot be stuck in the state of duality for much longer because it creates too much polarity, and then it creates different opposing forces. And so this is why protests have limited amount of effectiveness. Yes, they can create some change, but this change will still be limited. It will not create change in all ways and all dimensions. This is, for instance, the protests that were done in order to make it so that there was no more segregation and that there was no more separation of different people. For instance, this worked in certain ways, yet it is still happening very much between people. They're still very much separated. Protesting is not necessarily the solution. The solution is allowing yourself to merge as one and trusting that the love within you is going to release and transform all fear. The fear is the thing that creates this illusion of separation. The oneness comes from the state of love. And so, and love and light are intertwined. A lot of people, they misuse love and light. They just use it almost as a state of a different kind of suppression where they're trying to keep the peace, but they're not actually embodying the love or the light. And so it has many misconceptions. But in essence, if you set the intention, I'm allowing myself to be one with the love and the light. We're merging as one. I release and I relax any opposition within me. I allow us to merge as one light, one love, one being, one energy, one joy, one source. My higher self, I embrace you as my being. Ego, shift to the consciousness of that which is my higher self. Body, shift to the consciousness of that of my source, of my origin. Allow us to shift back to a state of being and consciousness that is of our origin, that is of love, that is of light, that is of joy, that is of creation, true creation, creation from love. When you do this, you allow yourself to shift and you're no longer dependent on other energy. You see, the reason why people eat so much food is because the food that they're eating is dead. It is not living, it is decomposing. And so when they eat it, it decomposes their body as well. But not only does it decompose their body, it creates a bit of a dependency because one uses so much of their own energy to digest this food that is not living, and so it does not have the life energy. And so then one is depleting themselves for the temporary sensation of feeling full. And in essence, this creates a bit of an addiction, but it's an addiction to something that is dead. Like a vampire in a way. People view vampires to be so different than themselves, but ultimately, if they're all eating dead things, then it is the same. Whether one creates the death or one consumes the death, it is the same frequency. And so
we are what we eat. Yes, true,
true. It's important for people to recognize this. When they embody the love and the light as one, the fear is able to be transformed back into the energy of their origin, and so the fear is not influencing, manipulating their reality or their mind. So then they're able to be consistent in channeling the light, channeling the energy. Now, most planets and most places, the beings of those planets and places do not eat others to survive. They do not even eat so-called plants. Some of them do not even have plants. They do not eat each other either. So a mammal would not eat another mammal, although most places don't even have mammals. They have something else entirely. But again, it is the same concept. Here, it is very close to cannibalism, for instance, for a human to eat a donkey or to eat a pig or to eat a chicken or a fish. they're all the same. They're just the same souls having the same experience, just in unique forms and unique shapes. It is just a difference in shape and experience, yet it is the same foundation of experience because they all have the same feelings. And so this is why it is the same. If one is capable of the same feelings, then it is the same.
Yes,
Whereas,
good analogy.
yes, people think that fish do not have feelings, but they do. People think that plants do not have feelings, but they do. Now, it's not about starving oneself. One is starving themselves by eating the dead. This is starving one's soul. This is starving one's being. It's important to recognize when we say starving one's soul, it's not that the soul can have any harm done to it. It's more of an expression in this form. In truth, it's more of just disconnecting from the soul. It's starving the connection to the soul more than starving the soul oneself. We wanted to clarify this because the soul cannot be harmed.
I get it. The spirit maybe is something different where the cells in the body are connected to the spirit. So maybe we could talk about, well, we have other questions too, but I understand that when we are eating dead or death, we are what we eat, and our cells begin to acclimate to that frequency of death. And then, of course, we would be starving on some level because who can survive on death? Because it's not life. So I get that. And I may have no judgment for those people who are eating meat, but this is information that you can meditate on. For those of you who really enjoy meat, I have no judgment. I ate meat most of my life, but I don't anymore. I went in and out of it, feeling I need more protein. I went through all these justifications of, well, if I don't get enough protein, then I won't feel good, I'll become anemic or whatever it is. And well, then I thought fish, I'll just eat fish. And then I realized fish, like dolphins, are like people, they feel too. So I really have been torn, and now I'm fully in being a vegan, and I feel so much better. I feel my cells, or even my skin feels more sensitive to fabrics that are on it. I feel that I've transformed. So I can speak from experience that the cells in our body do connect to the spirit. Maybe you can just talk to us a little bit about spirit versus soul, because I know soul can't be harmed, but what is spirit more like the energy body?
Yes, spirit and light body are typically interchangeable terms, and the spirit can be influenced by trauma. This is why sometimes spirits get stuck after they transition. They start to materialize their experience of living in the denser body. They start to try to adjust their light frequency to that of density, because even the dense forms are still of light. It's just a different expression of light. And so it's important to recognize this. I mean, ultimately, these beings of light, the spirits, they get so attached to the realities if they experience so much fear and pain because they start to lose themselves. If one loses themselves and forgets themselves, then they start to identify with the trauma. And the spirits are very interconnected with the body, very, very interconnected with the body. And so ultimately, if one gets stuck in fear, the spirit many times does too, but they can easily be relieved of this.
Mm-hmm. That's really good information. So anyone that feels incompetent or they don't have enough discipline to meditate or to visualize like this, a good place to start would be eating foods that are of high vibration so that your cells can begin to rise up. And then maybe a few months later, you might feel more, I guess the word would be more ready to meditate on visualizing your root chakra being anchored into the beautiful higher vibrational middle earth, or the new earth, or the love earth. That might be a nice order for some people who are just starting on this journey. I'm guessing, if correct me if you disagree, but I think you are on the same page with me, yes?
Yes, ultimately, when people are more intentional with what they consume, this is both with food, this is also with hearing, this is with all forms of energy, all expressions of energy that they consume. When they're intentional with this and they intend to connect with that of love and a more harmonious light, then it'll be much easier for their entire life.
Beautiful. So we have questions that we put together, Chloe and I, and I'd like to begin with you answered the questions about how to be, the first question was sovereignty, how to become less dependent on outside powers that were installed for maybe for darker reasons, like the government isn't for a higher purpose right now, is filled with darkness, and religions, and the medical system. So all of those are in question at the moment, and we need to return to ourselves and let go and stop putting attention on those three institutes, at least those three, maybe there's more. But that's a start to become more sovereign and to become more identified with love, and become more loving and forgiving and compassionate in our daily lives with our own selves and those around us, and less combative, less pick a side, Republican versus Democrat. This is duality thinking. So coming more into a place where we are accountable for who is in our president, who is the president is because of the consciousness of the people voted him in, and then we come back to the self again to be accountable for what is happening in the political world instead of picking a side and then trying to be right about it. This is duality. So there's an example how to become more loving to the self, to others. And then the second question is, what is the best diet for humans, and what is the best lifestyle? Maybe we start with diet, and I really love your idea about the wind and having it pass through us and even be our friend, and to help purify us and things that no longer support us. That's a beautiful way to see the wind, instead of it being, because it's starting to freak me out. There's just too much wind out there. And I get a headache sometimes when I walk in too much wind. So I will implement your new perspective on wind. And I'm wondering, with food, there are some foods that are more windy than other foods, more grounding, and then more toxic, favorable versus unfavorable. Can you teach us about the best types of food that we can eat?
Flow and do not resist with the wind. And before we answer this question, we would like to answer a question about pain. Now, this question was asked by a being who's going to watch this podcast and will have a question about this. And so we feel called to answer this question at this time. Some beings do their best to live a very high vibrational life, that they eat simply, they meditate, they do their best, yet they still suffer in different ways. This can also be suffering from physical ailments. Now, why does this occur? This does depend on the human, but many times ultimately is because one is still resisting within themselves. They think that they're doing their best, but they're trying to control their external reality to such a pinpoint degree that they are not flowing within themselves. Anytime they feel something, instead of allowing themselves to feel it, they overthink the situation, they get lost in it, they get deceived by the feelings. And they start to overcomplicate it, overprocess it, and they start to try to control the feelings of their selves. Now, in doing this, they start to lock the feelings into their beings, so they cannot be replenished through the energy of love. They cannot release it, because now they're just having these energies stuck. They're overprocessing it to the point where it is just cycling and cycling and cycling. So it's important for people, in essence, to flow within themselves when they have a thought come up and they feel worry or fear about a feeling. Just allow yourself to feel the feeling. The feeling tells you exactly what is needed, and then it is able to pass through you.
Beautiful.
If you overthink it, you get stuck in the process of the illusion of fear and pain. But this process, it's only coming from fear again. Now, fear can create physical ailments in the body, but it is because one is holding on to the fear. They're not allowing themselves to process and flow it out. Now, trauma is suppressed fear. Hatred is suppressed fear. Even guilt, neglect, so many different things. These are just suppressed fear. Fear is not the act of just feeling afraid. It is the act of this dark force, this virus that has many influences, many shapes of the same energy. So it's important for people to recommend to themselves to allow themselves to feel. Now, in terms of the energy of fear, it's not a complete energy, it is a fractured energy, and that's why it must feed and increase the experience of fear in order to feed on it. It cannot receive direct replenishment because it is not a whole and complete energy. We want people to recognize this, but ultimately, if you flow, if you allow yourself to feel and flow with ease, you're interconnected with this energy, the true energy, not the energies of fear, but the true energies of happening and being. For the energy of fear is not a real energy. It is an incomplete, a stagnation, a lack of, a nothingness that consumes. Do not give it more to consume. Return, allow yourself to feel and flow with the feeling. Channel the light. Do not overthink. Worry does not create a solution, it creates a block.
Beautiful. I hope that being really understands what you said. It was so, the delivery was beautiful. And I'm glad you tuned into that person. I hope that her or his pain will subside. Flowing is so important. I get it. And I'm wondering if we can think of maybe one or two exercises that would encourage the flow with maybe yoga, like a vinyasa flowing yoga. That would just be more like a dance yoga with gentle music in the background so that their body begins to flow.
This can help some people. Some people, they need more abrupt movement, such as shaking and then just moving however they feel. This can help a lot of people. So for some people, it must be more gentle and stretch incorporated with breath work and just very gentle in tune, flowing, lovingly flow. For some people, they need more intensity to release.
Yes, like the jumping, or they could do this tapping, deportment, they call it, or even types of massage that you could receive would be more aggressive. And just to let go as you're getting the massage. Like Thai massage can be very deep, and that they move the limbs. So this, if someone feels stuck in their fear and stuck in pain, some of these very simple, practical exercises could be a start so that your physical body can let go first, and then your mind can start to be more fluid, and you can start to let the emotions pass through you like a wave instead of identifying with the emotions or holding on to the emotion. These visuals, I think, are helpful for humans. Yeah.
Yes, and mentally ask yourself in the present moment, what am I feeling? Instead of giving it a whole explanation, just focus, what is the sensation of this feeling? I'm going to focus on feeling this. There's no thoughts that are needed to over-explain. Where is the feeling? What is the feeling? Let me just feel the feeling and just flow with this.
Oh, yes, that's very good. It's hard for a lot of people because we all tend to be escapists and take, marijuana or alcohol or whatever people do. Workaholism is even one of my, my escapes. So I have to witness that I'm escaping sometimes. So when we do feel pain coming up, I get it, hard to feel it. But what helped me was to shift myself into a witness state instead of being the one that was experiencing the pain. I stepped into another part of me that could witness the pain going through me, and then I would feel it, but in more of a witness state, so it felt a little easier to get through. Maybe I didn't use those words properly, but
yes, we know what you're saying. This can help with some people, but the people who tend to dissociate, this will not help. It'll make it more challenging for them to actually release it. So this truly depends on the person. So follow your intuition, those who are listening, and flow with the path that resonates with you. Now, when you allow yourself just to feel the feeling directly, at first it will seem very intense, and then feel it, flow it, and go beyond it. If you travel, it's almost like traveling on a wave. And it'll be very intense at first, and then it'll smooth out, and then you go beyond it, and there's always love, there's always this kindness, calmness beyond. So flow within, and then flow. First will be very intense, but just relax into the intensity, and then you'll flow within, and beyond. And the beyond will feel very good for you. And so it is just allowing yourself to feel the intensity, but if you put too much words to it, you'll start to overanalyze it, and it'll seem much bigger in your mind than it is in the body. So just allow yourself to experience wherever the experience is happening within. Now, in terms of food, ultimately living foods are best. So if everyone had collective gardens and also planted trees in the forest that are meant to be there, the native trees that produce fruits, produce berries in the bushes as well, and also the produce of nuts and seeds and certain ingredients that are in harmony. Now, this would be very good. So it would be a combination of foraging as well as gardens. And then ultimately, it would be going to the food directly and eating the food straight from the source. There would be no hunting, and there would always be permission given. So you would ask, for instance, if you would eat some leaves, you would ask permission from the plant. Can I have these leaves? Now, the plant many times will say yes and may direct you to which leaves to take. Now, when the plant gives you permission, they will not release toxins into the leaves, so you can eat it without receiving the toxins, but only if you really listen to the plant. But the plant will tell you, and then it can help them, and they will not be hurt because they will start to release it. Similarly to how many plants release leaves when it is cold, it is not hurting them to go through this process and to release because they're choosing to do so. It is not an automatic process. This is true. They're choosing to do so. It's important to recognize, for instance, that not all the leaves fall at the exact same moment. Not all the trees start to turn colors at the exact same moment. This is because they're intentionally choosing when to begin the process of releasing their leaves. And so trees and all plants are very conscious. They're not automatic beings on autopilot. They're very conscious. And so if you ask the plant for some leaves and they direct you to which ones, then it'll take a moment, but they'll start the process of release, which is why you can take them without hurting the plant, and then they will not release the toxins into them. Now, this works very well. And then there will be plenty of nuts to eat as well, although nuts aren't necessary to eat, but they can be eaten until people evolve past needing them. And then fruits will also be given, but ultimately, eating food straight from the source, as soon as it is received, it is eaten. It is not stored.
Okay. Can you talk more about nuts? And, especially there's like almonds, I know, are classified as a fruit, but people consider them nuts. And even I will, call them nuts by accident. But there's a skin on the almonds that might be toxic. Someone's talking about lectins, a doctor that's, on YouTube everywhere, talking about cashews having lectins and almonds having lectins. Can you tell us more about these lectins? They're in oatmeal too, I think, and the skins.
Yes. This does depend on the specific variety. In essence, they're not happy. This is being released because they're not happy. Sometimes they're just trying to protect themselves from abuse. Sometimes they're trying to protect their offspring. And sometimes it is just because they do not feel that it is right to be used in this way, which does classify as abuse. And so, in essence, they're just making conscious choices not to be eaten, and humans are eating them anyways. Now, almonds, they've just been overused and overabused. At one point,
how do we know which almonds don't want us to eat them and do want us to eat them?
So in essence, it's that the farms are abusing them. This is what it comes back to. Now, people don't want to believe that trees can be abused, but they can. Even the harvesting methods, they many times shake the trees very violently in order to even receive the nuts. They're abusing the trees. So this is part of it. It is not just what is being released. It is why it is being released.
I understand
Plants of any kinds do not just give off toxins to give off toxins. It takes energy to do so. It also comes back to fear. And so it's important to recognize this. Now, some trees give off significantly less and they've been less abused, and others give off more.
I see.
And now, in terms of oats, they've also been just over commercialized. Now, it's best to receive food from small farms who care, but still, even small farms, many of them just do not care. A lot of times people like to focus on the fact that small farms are small, so they must be better. But this is not always true. Sometimes they're just a small version of the same large commercial one. They're just less size, but they still have the same mentality. It is best to receive food from those who grow it with love or where it's foraged sustainably. Now, if you receive food from the grocery store, what we really recommend to do is to just send it energy, just to send an abundance of love, really express gratitude for where it came from. Now, it's essential not to eat the bodies of animals because this is very similar to your own body. But ultimately, it doesn't just apply to animals. Many times people want to think it does because the reality that it applies to plants is very hard for people to hear. But it does, it applies to everyone. But ultimately, just eating the animals, it's many more plants are harmed in the process because the animal eats many plants. And ultimately, it just creates more harm to do so. There's more fear involved. Although there's still fear with plant farming, it's important to recognize this. None of it is good. None of the food at the grocery store is true food. Even the fruit must be picked at optimal peak ripeness and eaten right away for it to be containing the same amount of life energy. Once it's at the store, it's not truly consumable, but in essence, if you send the food, energy, and love, it does help. And again, avoiding animal foods and animal products is very important because there's just much more fear, pain, and suffering involved. There's much more abuse to nature and just abuse to all life forms through eating animal products. But it's important to remember that the plant products are not without suffering from the store either.
That's such interesting information, and I'm so grateful you are sharing that. It's kind of depressing because how do we, it just makes our lives a little harder to have to bless everything and then to be so discerning about trying to figure out if things were picked sustainably and under kind conditions. Hard to know these things. I wonder if you can help us to know, are there certain brands that are more kinder people that
Yes, we wish we could say yes to this, but ultimately they're still usually receiving the ingredients from these commercial farms. And again, they're not focused exactly truly on the love. All the ones in grocery stores, they're just not. Some of them are less cruel than others, but they still have a level of cruelty because, again, they're not viewing these as life forms. They're viewing these as commodities, as products, as that without feeling. They're not viewing this as sentient. It's a form of slavery. It really is. Now, this is difficult to accept. People do not want to think of this. People do not want to think also that plants have feelings. And even some meat eaters will justify this as a reason not to go vegan, but ultimately there's much less death and suffering when one goes vegan than when one eats a vegetarian or a meat-based diet.
Can you give us sorry to interrupt you, go ahead.
Ultimately, going to farmers markets is a good idea, but also have discernment for the stands. Really feel out the energy of the stands. It's not just the people selling the food, because the people selling the food may not even be the ones growing the food. It's important really to have discernment, to tap into individual things, and ultimately blessing the food, as you call it. This is not something that needs to be too time-consuming. It can just be telling the food, I love you, I appreciate you, thank you, and I'm sorry. And I love you, and I'm sorry.
I was going to ask you, when I interrupted, I was going to ask you to give us some simple rendition of what to say. That's actually the Ho'oponopono, if I'm saying it right. The Ho'oponopono, there's a website that calls those words, I'm sorry, I love you, please forgive me, I forgive you. And did I say I love you? I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. So there's just like a short, that's so simple. And it cleans. They call it cleaning, the word cleaning. It cleans relationships. It cleans food, cleans anything and everything. So that's probably the ultimate prayer over foods that have been treated, like slavery.
Yes, exactly. This is very helpful. You do not need to say, I forgive you, though, to the food.
No,
This
I'm just saying
is,
that that's part of the Ho'oponopono prayer. But maybe you could specifically give us what could we say to the food to raise its vibration?
I love you, I thank you, and I'm sorry.
Oh, that's so simple. Okay, and you say it with meaning. And then the other question I was interrupting you about, because I was afraid I would forget, is there are going to be a lot of people who will say, I need protein. I won't feel good without protein. What do we say to those people?
That honestly, they're just being silly and indoctrinated. Now, yes, this can get people to react offensively, but in essence, it is like this. For instance, people do not eat hearts for heart health. They do not drink blood to have good blood. You do not, for instance, need to eat muscle in order to have good muscle. This is more like dark magic. This is like black magic. You do not need to eat brains to have smarts. This is just not how it works. This is a very barbaric perception and a very dark perception, and this is influenced by black magic. Now, if people are low in energy initially, sometimes this is because their body is detoxing or because they actually had an addiction to having this.
Yeah.
Now, in essence, all food, all true food, has all of the building blocks of life. And so, this is all you need. You do not need anything more. And if you're channeling energy, you're not going to feel depleted. So, as long as they're channeling energy, then they'll be good. And staying grounded, ground with the roots of energy. If they're grounding with the roots of energy, they're not going to feel lightheaded or dizzy.
Okay, that's really good for them to know that some of these programmed thoughts that if I don't get enough protein, because you know all these labels will tell you, oh, 6 grams of protein, they break it all down. And if they don't get X amount of protein per day, because especially those people who are going to the gym and they want to build muscle, they will have, something to say about this because they're all drinking protein shakes and protein is really over. It's
It is just a commercialized product. It is just to get people addicted and buying something. This is all it is. It's important to recognize there's so many beings of this world. They eat very, very little protein. They're very strong. Also think of other species. For instance, rhinos. Rhinos do not eat other animals. They're very strong. So are mountain gorillas. So are horses. So are bulls. No one has ever looked at a strong and powerful horse and thought that they are lacking protein. This is just not how life works. As long as one flows intuitively, they will receive everything that they need. One does not need to take from another in order to replenish themselves. Now, this is just stealing. It truly is just stealing. For instance, one does not eat feet in order to have feet. This is just not how it works. One does not need to eat muscle in order to have muscle. It is just a very silly mentality. It does not make logical sense. It is just good marketing, which is real manipulation.
That's really powerful information. I think all of the answers are in nature. All the truth lives right in front of us in nature. So when we look at animals, and especially like a horse and a bull and the rhino, they are extremely strong creatures. And then watch their diet, then we can learn from them. And nature doesn't lie. So what I would like to ask you about those people who will, so I can almost hear people pushing back on this, like the fitness people with their protein shakes. But what about, oh gosh, now I just forgot who the other demographic was that would.
There's some people that may view humans to be omnivores, and they'll be confused by this. Ultimately, humans do not have the biology of an omnivore. They do not have the jaws of an omnivore. They can move their jaw side to side. Only herbivores and frugivores can do this. Omnivores and carnivores do not move their jaw from side to side. They also have more acidity in their systems. Humans are less acidic than this. They also have much shorter digestive systems than humans. And if a human bit into an animal, they have a very high chance of dislocating their jaw. Their jaw cannot open like this. And so ultimately, humans have the most similar system to a frugivore being. They're just not looking at biology and they're just being very influenced. Now, if someone is very much convinced that they must have a certain amount of protein to survive, this will just be in their belief system. They can get this protein from plant sources that are just higher in protein. They can also have, for instance, many hemp seeds. They can have peas, they can have tofu if they wish, they can have different things that are high in protein. Now, the protein in tofu is readily available to their body. It's not necessary, but it's okay and it's safe. It has a type of plant estrogen that does not impact mammals at all. And so people do not need to worry about this. It's not going to mess with their hormones.
Are you sure? Because there's a lot of controversy about soy and it being
Yes,
allergenic and
we are sure about this. Now,
thyroid.
ultimately, soy needs to be organic because the pesticides in some versions of soy, this can mess with hormones, but soy in itself does not mess with hormones. It is just the pesticides, the things that are added to it, that manipulate it to then mess with people's hormones.
So it's really the pesticides and not the actual soybean.
Correct. The actual soybean is very safe, and for some, it has truly helped them in many ways.
Just get the organic, unsprayed tofu or soybeans, is what you're saying. And it's okay.
Yes.
Some people have soy protein drinks, and I'm wondering if that's safe. Well, would depend on if it's organic, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, they can have this, but again, the whole protein obsession, it is a bit silly, but if people feel that they must stick with this, then they can if they truly wish to. They do have free will. It is just unnecessary, and they shouldn't believe things that are unnecessary because then that belief shapes their reality and then they become dependent on it. People do not think that eating is an addiction, but it is. It is not just about eating certain foods or eating in excess. Eating as a whole is an addiction.
I agree with that. That feels right. I'm wondering about cashews because it's become very popular. They even do
It is not very healthy. The cashews are not very healthy. Now, one can eat them, and many times their system will be able to process them, but they're not that healthy. Macadamia nuts, for instance, are much healthier.
Okay. Can you name a couple others that I eat pumpkin seeds and macadamias, but I do love the everything bagel cashews, and they're organic, but you're saying it's touch and go. We don't know if they were treated right.
It is terrible for some systems. Other beings can process it more. It's not ideal. Pumpkin seeds are quite good overall. Sunflower seeds are not. Pecans, it depends on the source. Pistachios, it also depends on the source. If it is grown in the US, it is unlikely that it is good. If it is grown in other places, it has a higher likelihood of being good.
Pistachios.
Yes, pistachios as well as pecans.
Oh, okay.
And then pine nuts are also good for the system overall. Pine nuts are good for the system.
I love pine nuts, especially in tomato sauce. I would like to ask about tomatoes. That's another high lectin food. Should people eat tomatoes raw or cooked or not at all?
Some people can and some people cannot. This is really dependent on the way the system of the body is functioning, but they do hold on to pesticides. So the soil must be good and the soil must be overall in harmony, and there should be no pesticide residue in or on tomatoes because this really messes with the qualities. But ultimately, tomatoes are okay for many individuals. It can even be good for them in certain ways, whereas for other people it is not.
Well, can you tell us? Thank you for that information. It's just really, it's a trial and error. You have to see if you do okay with tomatoes, and if you have a bellyache, then that's a no. So what I would like to end our session with, because we're getting close to the end, unfortunately, is since we're talking about what we're ingesting, food, and what's favorable and unfavorable, and how it's been harvested, and how to bless it and change its vibration. But what about water? Water is a big deal right now.
In essence, water needs to be as purified or as clean as possible. In essence, many of the water that is just treated, for instance, the city water or that has pollutants, can be harmful for the body. But if it is properly filtered and one shows much love to the water, love, appreciation, gratitude, water, I love you, water, I am grateful for you, water, thank you, water, I'm sorry, but I love you dearly. If you say this happens, water will raise in vibration and frequency, but either way, having a good filter is important because much of the water on the surface that is being used for drinking has been polluted or has contaminants.
Okay. how about something simple instead of saying I love you, even though that does sound simple? A lot of people are going to feel weird about it, honestly. If they do it, at a restaurant or in front of people, maybe by themselves, but maybe I've seen people with water filters that have the word love on the filter, just gluing the word love. And
This is not enough. It is not personal enough. And so if people feel uncomfortable saying this out loud, they can say this within their own mind. But
okay.
most of the people listening today, especially those who have gotten so far listening within this, are going to be okay with doing so. You don't have to worry about this. But ultimately, it's most ideal to speak this intentionally. It can be spoken out loud or spoken in one's mind, and being okay with something new and different, because this is how positive change occurs, and this is how you will feel good.
It won't replace a filter. We still need filters because there are new pollutants in the water recently, public water, right?
Yes.
We shouldn't even trust restaurant water, even if they say the filter, we don't always know.
Yes, because sometimes the filter is not good as other filters. Usually you can taste the water and you can tell, but only if you are sensitive enough. For some people, they've gotten so used to poor quality water that they're easily deceived by it, but ultimately, those who are sensitive can tell immediately, and those who are not, just be very careful and cautious with this. Now it is possible to transform the properties of the water to, in essence, change the structure of the pollutants to be in that of harmony, but this takes much skill, and some people will not be able to do this. This is why a filter is necessary for many, but at some point everyone will be able to do something like this, and so then filters will not be necessary.
I love that idea. We have the power to do it ourselves. It just takes a little effort, right? So I'd love to learn about how to change the water, the structure of the water. I think there was a famous guy, Emoto, I forget his name, but
yes, this is very helpful. And it's just through intention. It's just using the frequency of one's words, of music, of sound. It's just using frequency, because frequency allows for change and transformation. But the more intentional you are and the more that you allow yourself to flow, the more that you can create this change.
Beautiful. So thank you for everything you've shared with us. I wish we could continue on and on. I want to ask you so many more questions, but I know our time is up. Chloe has somewhere to go. So I guess if there's any one last thing, we have 1 minute or less. Is there anything that you would like to add?
We love all of you. You are always loved. You are never alone. You are always supported. You are always guided. All is in your favor, even if it seems against you, it is not. So tune to the frequency of love and you will see that all is in your favor. You have full choice and full ability. You have free will in order to make this choice. Remember, a choice can never be taken away from you. No matter how extreme a situation appears, there will always be a solution. You will never face something you're unable to overcome.
Thank you for that inspiration. We all need to hear that. Thank you for your time and for coming to visit Earth and helping all of us.
We love you.
We love you.